Chapter 31 to 39. After killing Wrath, I collected his body in my inventory before I found Gluttony struggling under wreckage of the rocks. My new demonic companion is really pathetic. However, we had to leave before the coming of the local authorities. Even though Mauritania is a third world country, however, this does not mean that it is underdeveloped. The only difference between countries is that the countries of the first world are located in lands with better resources. But before I leave, I prayed for everyone who died. Evil spirits may appear here, and worse, this city may turn entire to a cursed land. While I currently have a dragon body in my inventory, and maybe I can get a dragon core heart, but I was not a fan of physical modification. On the other hand, I am more inclined to use it in order to have a stronger body. In another way, I will use his body as feeders to strengthen my body, but this is for a later time. After seeing all the lives that have fallen in front of Wrath, I decided that I will become a demon hunter temporarily. After all, my stupid uncle is the one who freed Satan. I cannot believe that I have to bear the mistakes of others. In any case, I decided that it would be better to take care of my current problem before I think about using the body of the dragon. So under the guidance of my compassionate compassion, Gluttony, I went to the United States of America, where I would be able to kill both envy and greed, and because I chose to kill envy first, I came to New York. I stood on the busy street. It was sunset, but New York was always crowded. Now, finding one demon in a city that contains more than 7.5 million shouldn't be a big problem, right? I said sarcastically while thinking about where to start. This, more than expected, hard, will prove, he said. Gluttony with a low voice from inside my bag. He seemed to realize that it was dangerous to show himself in public. In fact, I even avoided coming to America in the past, given that the US government likes to control its magi organizations, and also, the clock tower does not have a friendly relationship with the US government, so I will try to finish my job quickly. Not as it seems, I said when I carried a newspaper that was thrown to the ground. The news says that there was a serial killer that killed more than 300 people in the last 6 days, being called the Reaper of New York Street Spirits. The only thing left of the victims was their skeletons. It seems our friend was a little busy. This, as though, she really, envy, but with that it will be found, and time fighting, it is really annoying. Is she a female? And is she stronger than Wrath? Depends on. Envy is what the name looks like, kills, steals everything he wants, appearance, magic circuits, sex, memories. Except from Wrath, lust, sloth. We are all of the kind that gets stronger, with time, stronger, he said intermittently. Yes, I have to go to the last crime scene. Unfortunately your link is not strong enough to determine the exact location, I told him, randomly. Gluttony can know the general location of other sins, but not the exact location, but as long as I go to a place where envy was, I can perform rituals in order to predict the location of envy, because after all, I was not gifted in the clairvoyant. Through the newspaper in my hand, I was looking into the location of the last misdirected murder incident before taking a taxi towards Queens, where a family of 6 people was killed. Indeed, since the envy has taken on the identity of a serial killer, it will now be named the most dangerous and fastest serial killer in history, especially since all the rest of his victims are their skeletons. I wish no Magus organization had intervened yet. After about 20 minutes, the driver delivered me to the address I gave him. I got out of the taxi and watched it until I got away. After that, I went to the victim's house, which was an ordinary 2-story house and a backyard. Sorry, sir. A black African-American man approached me. Can I know who you are and what you want? Of course. I smiled at him and I looked at my eyes. I decided to use hypnosis on him. I can use mental interference to alter his memory, but I do not want to mess with the mind of a random person. Can I know who you are first? Agent J of the FBI. Agent J told me straightly. Well, Agent J, I'm your new boss. Do you have a boyfriend here? I asked him with a joke. No, because of the multitude of crime scenes, my partner K has been assigned to another crime scene, Agent J said while accepting the fact that I'm his boss. Okay, Agent J, show me the crime scene. I told him with a smile, nodded his head and led the way. He put me in the house and showed me the room that the family was killed. I ignored the police signs and I removed the cover from the ground. I removed chalk from my inventory and I drew a circle with a 5-pointed star inside it on the floor. I didn't care that Agent J was watching me because he was currently under my hypnosis spell. Can I know what you're doing, sir? Agent J asked me, but I ignored it. I took out a gold cup from my inventory and gave it to Agent J, who took it from my hand. Hold it a little. I took out 5 little candles and put them on every corner of the star and lit them. I took the golden cup from Agent J and put it in the center of the circle before I made Agent J lost consciousness. I cut my wrist and let the blood flow into the cup. For this, I was temporarily suppressing the effect of Avalon, and I only turned it on after half the cup had filled. I closed my eyes and started to whisper the spell repeatedly. This was a witchcraft and Furmal magecraft ritual, so it does not require any prana from me and works by directing the world's mana. If I have clairvoyant EX, then knowing Envy's location would be an easy thing, but my clairvoyant is only in the C rank. I opened the door of the house and entered it without caring if anyone discovered me. It seems that the Envy was too busy, as it kills without stopping, although I cannot blame him because this is his goal after all. Earlier, my prediction rituals succeeded, so I cleared the signs of my presence there and made Agent J forget my existence. After all, I could not just reveal the existence of a magecraft to any random person. Magecraft, monsters, vampires, and magic were secrets that the general public should not know it because it will cause them more problems than it will cause us problems. On the other hand, I had to take care of Envy quickly so that I could hunt greed. After all, I just can't take it lightly and let them get stronger than I could handle. After all, I still have both laziness and lust elsewhere in the world. I locked the door behind me and looked around. I was currently in a house in the wealthy area consisting of 2 floors and a lot of rooms. According to my fortune, the Envy is still here, since I can smell the thick smell of blood on this floor, and I will automatically separate that Envy on the top floor, so I slowly slowed down my steps and climbed the stairs slowly. I began to hear faint sounds. It seemed as if someone was crying muffled. I immediately moved quickly and headed towards the sound source, a room whose door was open. When looking inside, there was a blonde girl with her legs crying in the corner, while what seemed to be her boyfriend or brother is eaten by a creature. The creature itself had a human body and wore clothes, but its head was like the head of the thing from the horror movie. I took out a pistol from my inventory and used a Knight of Honor on it to make it temporarily Noble Phantasm of D rank. It was an automatic pistol, so there was no safety trigger. Asterisk shot asterisk. I fired 3 bullets at the head of the creature. Of course I did not expect him to die because of this only, but he fell to the ground without mobility. Seeing this, the girl ran towards me and hugged me suddenly. It seemed that she did not care about the fact that I was completely stranger to her. I could have avoided it, but I did not feel the reason for that, because I do not think it could pose any danger to me. I watched the body of the Envy, who turned completely into a group of worms that left crest worms in disgrace in terms of disgusting appearance. I pushed the girl to the side and watched me while the worms turned and formed in an adult man with clothes. "You, doe. It's really nice to see you, so you're going to make a delicious meal," Hu said when he saw me while he showed me his sharp teeth. I closed my eyes before opening them again. It is a little annoying that they knew my identity, but this will not win them anything. I quickly stretched my hand towards him and sus. His whole body caught fire and started crying out in agony. Fortunately, I can control the fire so that the house and sus does not burn. His body was completely burned and it became just a set of worms that kept burning. I looked at the blonde girl and I used mental interference to make her sleep. "You killed one of the sins, Envy. You got 1,200,000 EXP. You have reached level 76. Total statistical points, 8. You killed one of the sins, Envy. You can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills: Present concealment, A. Eye for art, B. Torture techniques, A. Noble phantasm. Meat-eating worm, B+. Medium awareness of enemies, B. I looked at the list and decided to choose both torture techniques and eye for art because they are the only option. Envy was really weak, but I think this is because he has not reached his true potential yet. I used observation on noble phantasms. Meat-eating worm, B+, obtaining a body made up of satanic worms. Upon devouring any human being who acquires both its shape, magical circles, and memories. So basically, will I be the most disgusting version of Zukinmato? No thanks. In addition to changing my body may make me weaker than I am already. Medium awareness of enemies, B, ability to see all real name, type, origin, and alignment of any other servant. I sighed and chose both torture techniques, eye for art, and medium awareness of enemies. Hello, the author here. I just want to explain some things, such as why Kistur Zelrich Schweinorg does not interact with the MC, and I want to explain my theory about the multiverse and timelines. So listen to me. Let me start with an explanation that there is no multiverse or infinite number of parallel universes. There was only one universe, which I will call the main universe, where the story simply turns. In Akasha, every possible possibility is recorded, but this possibility does not become a timeline alone. And while there are things like Gilgamesh Noble Phantasm that can be used to see these possibilities do not become a different timeline or a parallel universe unless someone has traveled to the past and made some changes, or someone has gone to it. Here comes Kishtir Zelrich Schweinorg, who possesses the second magic, as he can not only watch these possibilities, but he can go to them and then they become real, and since he possesses the second magic, even when he goes to them no other Kishtir Zelrich Schweinorg is made, so there is Kishtir Zelrich Schweinorg only one in all timelines. Now I will explain the role of the fifth magic. The enthusiastic magic cannot go to other possibilities, instead by traveling in time to the past and changing some things, the future does not change but rather a completely new timeline is created. So in short, there is the main universe in which the events of this novel revolve, the first and only Kishtir Zelrich Schweinorg also belongs from him, and in the Holy Grail War 3 Ingra Manu was summoned, and the events of both Fate Stay Night and Tsukihime and Fate Strange Fake revolve in it. There is also a Fate Grand Order, and a lot of other stories. So, simply, while every possible probability is recorded at the root, a parallel universe is created only when Kishtir Zelrich Schweinorg uses the second magic to go to that probability, or if Aoko changes the past, and while many people can see these probabilities, a parallel universe won't get create. Of course there are also other universes that are different from the main universe, such as the universe to which Thola belongs, or the universe from which Victor came. So, why is Kishtir Zelrich Schweinorg not interested in Victor even though he's in the main universe? And he does not wonder why there is no Victor Von Doom in any other parallel universe? This is simple, while Victor is really interesting, since in the main universe it means that man must be there from the beginning, while the parallel universes and possibilities are just what if of the main universe. The universe is also infinite. I do not mean that it does not have a beginning, I mean that it is only infinite, which means that it possesses infinite heat and infinite mass, so even if Aoko has sent what appears to be a quarter of the heat of the universe to the future, this is only considering that the universe it has a limited mass, so it really didn't initiate the death of the universe. And one last thing, Gaia and Alea are separate beings from Gaia and Alea of the other parallel universes, so they are not beings of the multiverse level as many believe. Kishtir Zelrich Schweinorg cannot go to anime worlds or other universes as some believe. The second magic can only process parallel universes, so he can only switch between these possibilities and the timelines of the main universe. Victor does not share the collective consciousness of humanity, so he is completely separate from Alea. The only reason that Alea does not consider him an enemy is because he is spiritually and physically human, so she will only think that he was born with a special ability that gives him independence from her, so she will treat him the same as any other human. After I killed the monster, and saved the girl, I love how it sounds to hear this. Unfortunately I cannot be proud of my actions because of some written rules, however, all I have to do is wait another 4 years, only 4. Anyway, I faked the crime scene and it made it look like an ordinary murder, and I adjusted the memory of the blonde girl to make her think that it was just an ordinary human being who entered and killed her family before he escaped. After all, I cannot leave traces on my presence. Of course, I cannot change the fact that some cameras may have photographed me, but the supernaturals of the USA can take care of this. Going back to Mauritania, I knew that while I was fighting Wrath, I was being watched by the eyes of a desert hawk. Perhaps the Magus who was watching me was using a spell of mutual perception, and I also thought that there were many other bodies that were observing that city. After everything, an entire city was destroyed by a supernatural creature. While I'm sure that anyone who knew me would try to keep the matter hidden at first, but that soon it would become common knowledge. After all, I killed a dragon that destroyed a city, and also, I killed the only dragon in the human age. My next goal was greed. Since all sins possess what appears to be some kind of connection between them, greed ran away when he felt that envy, his closest sin, had been killed. Fortunately, with the help of the demonic book in my bag, I could track down greed all the way from New York to the south of the Amazon jungle in South America. It was an arduous journey, as the encouragement continued to stop in multiple places and was constantly changing its tracks, but it seemed that finally stopped. Beware. I feel like, he's here, said Gluttony from my bag while he was warning me. Hear this, I immediately raised my defenses immediately. I had encouragement before, and I could have known that his abilities were assimilation of animals and phantasm species before he could transform them and even create hybrid forms. The last time he managed to escape by turning into a bird, I could have stopped him, but I wanted to see what if he continues to escape again and again. Suddenly, I jumped up in the air and used the trees around me as walls to evade the giant worm that came out of the ground beneath me. After that, I removed several knives from my stock and threw them towards the worm that opened its mouth full of sharp teeth and swallowed the knives. I smiled ridiculously. Now that I caught him again, I will never let him escape. Regardless of him, there is still both lust and laziness to take care of them. By taking advantage of the force of nature called gravity, I strengthened my body with a reinforcement magecraft and kicked the worm in its head, causing it to return to Earth. I fell a few meters away and I smiled when I saw that greed descended under the ground. After several seconds, greed began attacking me again by trying to devour me from below, but I continued to avoid his attacks and reciprocate in kind. After some time he jumped up in the air and was done, covering his body with a black substance, and in less than a second completely transformed into a new creature. It looks like an attack between a lizard and a human and has a scorpion tail and antennae with a winged bird's wings. Apart from this, it is 3 full meters long. Is this your true form? I asked her while I was completely relaxed. The most practical right now. It's still far from the perfect being, but it's more than enough to devour you, he replied, in a deep voice. If I think we should test the validity of your words, I told him as I got into a mixed position on the Bajiquan and the Chinese Kung Fu. Doom, you will meet your doom today, he told me before quickly attacking me with his paws. Through the agreement of both the eye of the mind, true, and the abilities of dividing and speeding up thought, I could foretell his next movement before he thought about it, and this was not difficult because it depended on his animal instincts more than his reliance on focus. However, he still had a higher physical strength than me, and thanks, his animal additions he could do to attack me in different ways. Fortunately, I was using my martial arts in an optimal way, and I was taking advantage of both his weaknesses and his strength against him. He even was uprooting big trees and trying to hit me and throw them towards me. Of course I was avoiding all his attacks, but he managed to scratch me a few times. Luckily that Avalon was recovering me automatically. I avoided the punch that passed over my head and punched the side of his chest by waking from the Bajiquan to cause internal damage to him, before I slid around him and grabbed his tail of scorpion and pulled him out brutally by pressing my weight on the floor. Greed turned back toward me at its top speed, causing it to collide with me. Fortunately, I used a simple wind spell that pushed me back, so while I was hit by it, I avoided running over because of his huge body weight. You will regret this, Victor Von Doom. Greed said angrily when he turned towards me, while his lizard scales began to grow in size and harshness, and I will make sure of this with my life. He started attacking me fiercely, and more wildly, and with the passage of time he became more powerful, faster, but not intelligent. With the passage of time I began to notice that the heat around his body was getting hotter, and red cracks began to appear on his body. Thinking he has this suicide skill, if I can't get it, no one will, right? He is really greedy. I activated my mystic eyes of death perception and removed a dagger from my inventory, and I avoided suicide attacks and I cut death lines related to his arms and legs. This, nothing, changes. Greed said when his body began to swell and look like it was about to explode. Upon seeing this, I pulled out Rangaminiad and stabbed Greed in his chest as there were tangles between death lines. After killing him his body stopped puffing and his eyes lost life, while his body turned into nothing more than a biomass spread throughout the place. I used a brief spell by my divine words, a language that has been lost since the age of the gods, to cast a spell of fire to burn the biomass. One important rule, don't let anything that might cause you problems like reviving your enemy. You killed one of the sins, greed, you gained 3,200,000 EXP. You have reached level 77. You have reached level 78. Total statistical points, 12. You killed one of the sins, greed, you can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills. Animalistic logic, B++. Animal communication, A. Instinct, A. Annihilation wish, A+. Noble phantasm. Apex dream, A. The law of nature, B. I looked at the list of skills seriously. They were all high-level skills. Animalistic logic was useless for me because my fighting style was based on predictive abilities in the near future and on my mental arithmetic capabilities, while animal communication seemed good, but I did not want to become a hermit or get a group of birds and cats to help me. Annihilation wish is a suicide skill. At its current level I may be able to continue for a few minutes before it explodes like a time bomb, so it is better than Engram Mania skill. Instinct, I possess 1 in the C rank, but Instinct A gives a level of prediction for the near future, in addition to increasing muscle memory and physical reactions, which means that both my rapid reflexes and the distinctive fighting style that I use will be strengthened. I have used observation on the noble phantasms. Apex Dream, a greed reality marble, which gives the ability to store animal and phantasm species information, can switch to stored species or create hybrid shapes while targeting specific properties. The law of nature, be the ability to force the concept of death and mortal laws to immortal creatures. While the first option seems good, I prefer owning my own reality marble instead of taking another one. The second option sounds more than good. Now I can kill people who don't follow the laws of death and life like Tiamat, Tholu, and the ultimate ones. I choose Instinct A, Annihilation Wish A+, and the Law of Nature B. My next goal was supposed to be Lust in France, but instead I changed my destination from France to Greece, where I decided to take care of Sloth first. This was due to several reasons, the most important of which is that while the goal of Lust is to collect the largest number of slaves and assistants, the goal of Sloth is to eat as many people as possible. In terms of the risk measure, I believe Sloth is one step above Lust. I could not have guessed any abilities that Sloth might have, given that his name is somewhat mischievous. However, I do not think he would be so strong, especially against someone like me. None of the sins were really weak. The reason I was able to defeat them without any real difficulty was that I was very strong. First, my combat style was based on taking advantage of all my physical abilities with reinforcement magecraft, and it was based on predicting opponent movements and analyzing his style of fighting and build an effective counter strategy while absorbing his fighting style and mine at the same time. In addition to possessing both thought acceleration, rapid reflexes, and instinct, this makes it difficult for most of my opponents who are physically stronger than me to even think about touching me. As a magus, I'm also very powerful. My modern magecraft has reached a level where its destructive power is compared to true magic, and I also learned the special kind of magecraft that Medea used that was as powerful as true magic too, and I developed it further. And do not forget that I also possess true magic from the Age of the Gods that controls teleportation. In modern times, only the Holy Grail in the Wars of the Holy Grail can use something close to teleportation, and even then the teleportation of the Holy Grail is not real and does not follow any logic. The difference between the true magic from the Age of the Gods and the true magic from the human era is that the latter is acquired by approaching the root, and the first is by using formulas and rules to make true miracles that normal magecraft can't do. The teleportation that I use works by passing through the fourth dimension to move from point A to point B in an instant. Medea needed to attract mana from Ryudo Temple in order to move through the fourth dimension, but my OD is more than enough for that. My necklace also works like command seals, so it can move me without any rule as long as some mana is provided. On the other hand, true magic in modern times works by making the creation of a real miracle without following any physical rules or laws, such as how the second magic can move between parallel universes and timelines. Of course, even true magic from the modern era has its occurrence, such as how Zelrich cannot get out of parallel universes and go to the Thuli universe or to the Earth from which I came. While true magic can be used to push Magus abilities beyond natural limits, they are not absolute. Zelrich is lucky that he ingested the blood of the Crimson Moon, or he would have died from his injuries, and even if he survived he would have died of old age afterwards. Also, even the true magicians still have to use their magic circuits, so Kiritsugu can defeat them if he can hit them with a bullet of his origin. And if Kiria is given both the Black Barrel and the Command Seals and the Black Keys, he can defeat the Zelrich if he is lucky and use certain strategies. After all, Zelrich still a dead apostle. True magicians are not very overpowerful as some believe. Yes, they may be able to travel through time, or move between parallel universes, or remain in the physical plane after the death of their bodies, but this does not mean that they cannot be killed by any other powerful person. On the other hand, I can only imagine how strong I will be after obtaining true magic like the third magic. Only then will I be able to benefit from my full potential. Not so long ago, I started using my time element in a similar way to Kiritsugu, by creating a fake reality marble inside my body to accelerate or slow down my inner time. With some additions, due to the massive amount of mana, I could have stopped or slowed time in the area surrounding me for several moments. When I get Heaven's Feel, I may be able to pause time in the entire universe. At that time it does not matter whether you own Magic Blue or Kaleidoscope. Also, obtaining the third magic is not a big problem for me, but let's go back to the main topic. The situation in Greece was very dangerous. There was an epidemic that spread quickly and in the surrounding countries, so the borders were closed and there was a quarantine. The epidemic itself was not fatal, instead it causes humans to lose their rationality and attack any sane person close to them, so that doctors could not detect the epidemic in the bodies of patients. When I analyzed the patients, I discovered that they do not possess spirits within them and their bodies are moved due to a rare and spread curse. Then I began to notice that there are many other mages looking at the subject. Upon studying the curse up close, I noticed that she was not killing the person afflicted with her, but rather transforming his soul into energy that is transported somewhere. When using predictive rituals, I could not find the place of laziness anywhere because there are millions of people with a curse, so I had to kidnap some of the injured to perform a lot of ritual return to origin in order to know where the magic energy derived from burning human lives is transferred. Sloth was a creature that had to be destroyed. If it was left for several more months, the entire humanity would be destroyed. Mephisto is truly a genius. In order to ensure that the Aleia did not send a counter-guardian so early, that he created the spiritual essence of the sins from human souls, and gave each one a real body linked to nature and not made with mana. Like that wrath was a dragon, that envy was a worm and greed was a phantasm beast, and as for sloth it seemed to be a slime. He had high physical resistance because of his own body, but he was very slow, and while I could not harm him physically, I was able to burn him completely. By killing him I gained independent action A and subversive activities B, and also NP is called the Apocalypse's Curse, which is basically the same curse that quickly spread. For all magical energy, it seems that the sloth has a skill whose only goal is to send the magical energy collected from human souls to Mephisto. It is hard to imagine what he would do with all that energy, but I suppose it is a problem for another day. I wiped the black blood from my face and I pushed the holy spear, Rangaminiad, into the heart of the fifth sin, lust. It was a little difficult to defeat her, not because she was very strong, but because she was hiding on an island and ruled as a queen after she had transformed all her inhabitants into demonic monsters. The moment I stepped in the island she sent all her abomination demons to kill me, and since they were not human anymore, I did not mind to do genocide. While the fighting abilities of lust were very low, perhaps at the D level only, she was so beautiful and so tempting that I almost fell in love with her, and I am sure that she had a skill that raised my own craving because I was very craving. However, no matter how beautiful she was, I still have things to do, and places to be, so the moment I got close to her I grabbed her arm from her body in a brutal way. From the look that was in her face, she didn't expect that. She might have thought it was enough to make me really fall in love with her, and perhaps she was really close. The only thing is that my will are too strong to be affected by one beautiful girl, especially since there is a girl I really like. Of course I would have fallen into her spell if her appearance did not suggest that she is lewd, especially since I am a 16-year-old teenager, but at the end of the day I had to kill her and so I killed her. It is just one devil. You killed one of the sins, lust. You gained 1.700,000 EXP. You have reached level 82. Total statistical points, 20. You killed one of sins, lust. You can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills. Charisma, sex, A. Hormones, B+++. Natural body, C. Robust health, EX. Shapeshifting, A. Noble phantasm. Monster's womb, C+. The mother of the perfect being, A+++. Single temptation, E. I looked at the skill list carefully. I immediately eliminated both charisma, sex, and the hormones, first, because they weren't practical options, and again, I really don't want to attract many other sexes to me, thinking about my lower half just wasting time that I can use it to increase my strength or make my future easier. Shapeshifting would be really useful, but I can use magecraft to simulate its effects, such as how I changed my shape before I started hunting for sins, so even if the people watching me have revealed my achievements, they will not know that I am Victor Von Doom and I will remain anonymous for them. The remaining options are the natural body, which will give me a normal athletic body without worrying about calories, and also robust health, which included poison resistance and resistance to mites, and my endurance feature will increase for that if C were going to be B, and this without affecting body stats of mine. I used observation on the 3 noble phantasms. Monster's womb, C plus the ability to make an external womb separate from the body to transform humans into demons of skill user. The mother of the perfect being, A+++ reality marble works as a womb. By collecting enough creatures and animals, the best traits can be extracted to form the ultimate creature. Single temptation, E, a one-use ability, which can be used to surely entice someone, can be resisted by magic resistance rank A or by strong will. I looked at the options carefully. I was not the type of person to kidnap humans and convert them into demons, and I also didn't want to become a mother. Really, what do these sins possess on perfection? Also, the third option may be a lifesaver in the future. I picked both the robust health and the natural body, and single temptation. Since the sins are dead, our deal is over and now I'm going away, he said Gluttony as he brought out 6 legs of a spider from its sides. I looked at Gluttony with a smile. Of course, our deal is over. I just want you to know that you were really helpful. Binge remained frozen for a moment before saying before it began to run. Don't tell me that you will kill me. We made a deal, and you defeated pride. Unable. Who knows, I'm going to try my luck, I said loudly before I hit him with several Gander bullets that he threw to hit the wall. Without moving around, I kept hitting him with Gander bullets repeatedly until I heard the game saying that I had killed him. Although it helped me, this does not change the fact that it is still a sin and I must kill it, just as leaving it alive to be associated with another human will only cause his attempt to gather all magic knowledge, which will weaken mankind in return, and also, he may try to make new demons. You killed a sin, Gluttony, gained 1,200,000 EXP. You have reached level 83. Total statistical points, 22. You have killed one of sins, gluttony. You can choose 2 skills and 1 noble phantasm. Skills. Natural insight A. Hypothetical inference B. Noble phantasm. Eating, knowledge A. Opponent strength EX. Gluttony belly EX. I looked for options. There was no point in really thinking about the skills because they are both good and there is no other option, so I used observation on noble phantasms. It is possible that gluttony has a good thing. Eating, knowledge, A. The ability to absorb magical books, mystic codes, and noble phantasms in order to preserve their knowledge and their history, with a small percentage to acquire properties of the purpose that was absorbed. Opponent strength, EX. The ability to see people's statistics in terms of strength, agility, endurance, luck, mana, NP. Gluttony belly, EX. The ability to reach an impressive space that can be used to store things, not suitable for living things. I looked at the options. The first option is very good, but I have already learned everything I need to learn, and I own my inventory for the third option. I chose opponent strength, natural insight, and hypothetical inference. You have completed main mission, the unholy sins of humankind. Description: in order to spread ruin and sin among humankind, Satan Mephisto created 6 powerful creatures to do work for him. Subject: hunt and kill each one of them. Goal 1: kill Wrath in the African desert. Goal 2: kill Sloth in Greece. Goal 3: kill the Lust in France. Goal 4: kill Greed in America. Goal 5: kill Gluttony in London. Goal 6: kill Envy in America. Rating: perfect. Basic reward: 20 million EXP. Bonus reward: 3x rank upgrade card. You have reached level 90. Total statistical points, 36. You can choose 3 perks. Rank upgrade card, a single-use item that can be used to raise a noble phantasm's rank once. This bonus is very good, especially since I now have 36 points for free use, and I can choose 3 new perks, but currently I will upgrade my noble phantasms in order to prepare for confronting pride. I really hope it is as strong as Gluttony says, although I love the fact that I a little strong, but the fact that I never had opportunities to use my true strength before still bothered me. In any case, most of my noble phantasms either have their rank does not matter or their rank EX is like Rongaminiad and Avalon in opponent strength, so the noble phantasms worthy of promotion are Knight of Honor and Metal Dragon Force. Regardless of these, there is also the law of nature, and although people with high magic resistance can resist it, no one can really escape from its effect. Single temptation was not worth upgrading either. First, I don't think there is a difference between the E and the D ranks, and secondly, the opponent's temptation in combat will only make him realize that I used some skill to make him fall in love with me, and this will not be good. Third, I really count on seduction to win. The Apocalypse's curse is not an option either, since I am a human and not a creature designed to preserve the scales of nature like demons. The beginning of the end of the world will make me an enemy of both Gaia and Alea, and although I am stronger than most heroic spirits and the counter-guardians, I do not think that I can defeat an army of heroic spirits that are not restricted by the system of classes. Of course, some servants are stronger than their originals, such as the fact that the demon Engram Manu inside the Holy Grail is much stronger than the heroic spirit Engram Manu found in the Throne of Heroes. Of course, I just can't say this because there are different versions of heroic spirits. Like the fact that the soul of the dead saber within Avalon that is inside, of course there is a copy version that made in her Deech in the Throne of Heroes, but the original Pendragon Artoria is inside me. Heroic souls are not obligated to go to the Throne of Heroes, so even though the true heroic spirit Artoria exists inside, however, a copy was made after her death on the Throne of the Heroes, which is similar to the case of Perlati. There are also people like Scathach and Merlin who have never died but who have become heroic spirits due to people's belief in them, and in both cases it is possible to summon both Arturia or Scathach or Merlin when certain requirements are met, which is why Arturia was summoned from Avalon in the Fourth Holy War. However, going back to the topic, Metal Dragon Force is a good choice, not only that it makes noble phantasms under the B rank useless, but there is a small percentage to cancelling the effects of the B rank because Wrath was not affected by my Gi bid. However, I will not upgrade it because there are much better versions like God Hand, the 12 Labors. On the other hand, Knight of Honor is a very good choice. In its current level, any weapon I carry including vehicles and tools like wooden and metal sticks turns into a noble phantasms of the D rank, and any noble phantasm that can be carried like Rongaminiad gets a slight boost in its total strength when using the Knight of Honor. In the end, I decided to use a single rank upgrade card on the Knight of Honor and keep the 2 additional cards in case I received a noble phantasms worth the upgrade in the future. Name, Knight of Honor. User, Lancelot, Victor Von Doom. Type, anti-unit. Rank, EX. Range, 1. Maximum number of targets, 30. Although the description didn't say much, I, as the owner of ability, could have known its real changes. Every weapon I held in my hands would become a noble phantasm of the C rank, while in the case of holding a noble phantasm even if it was at the EX rank, all his abilities would be strengthened by at least twice. Well, Knight of Owner promotion was a very good choice. Now, my sixth feeling that works with instinct and the eye of the mind, true, as well as many other things, tells me that I have to hurry up before something bad happens. Since I can choose new perk, I decided to search for something useful in the perks list. Perks. Iron Skin, the ability to temporarily convert the composition of the skin of the user into iron. Well fed, in the event that the owner's belly is full, a 100% increase in the regeneration metal. Inventor, increase the effectiveness of both the skill of territory creation and item construction. Who needs oxygen? The first level gives the ability to breathe underwater. Concealment, the ability to prevent others from knowing the true amount of your magical power, enhancing the skill of being concealment. Animal Friend, animals and phantasm species do not attack you if you do not provoke them. Battle Crazy, the more damage the owner receives in battle, the more statistic he increases. The third eye, having a third eye in the middle of your forehead gives you a certain level of prediction and an increase in perception. The Enemy of the Spirits, an increase in damage against spiritual creatures such as ghosts, whose attacks have a conceptual feature. I chose the Enemy of the Spirits. For every other perks, each one either has side effects or it does not suit me, such as a crazy fight which requires me to receive damage while my style requires that I avoid damage, or Iron Skin, which is a useless skill because I can destroy iron with a single punch and, with my choice of one perk now, I can choose two features at a later time. I quickly closed my case and I turned around facing the guest iron that appeared in the room. He was a man with a red pimple and black hair with demonic merits. Mephisto. I calmly said when I got to know him. Mephisto smiled with amusement. Yes, it is me. Surprisingly, you got to know me in my current form. I really hope I can stay like this, but I'm not here for this. I looked at him without speaking or showing any expression. Unlike the last time I saw him, Mephisto was very different, not only his voice and appearance, but his personality as well. Anyway, I just want to thank you before I kill you. After all, without your help, maybe no one will be able to kill my 6 sins, and therefore, I will never be able to complete my rituals. He said while he closed one eye and left one eye open. What do you mean? I asked her without any expression on my face. Oh, in order to answer your question, I have to go back 2,000 years ago from now. Before I seal myself, I prepared special rituals that depend on making 6 sins to wreak havoc on Earth only to be killed by a hero, and after killing them from someone, the ritual will be completed and the end result is that I will be transferred to the 7th sin, pride, and now, all thanks to you, I am really thankful to you. The problem is, although I am currently the most powerful entity in the world, thanks to you, of course, I still have to do many things before I can become the true god of this world. He was silent and looked at me for several seconds. Won't you ask me what I'm planning to do? I sighed while I noticed that Mephisto was completely changed from his serious character that he had 6 years ago. So what's your plan? He laughed. 2 plans in reality. The first is to start the Age of the Gods again because the mystery in this era seems to disappear in any second. The second is to kill you and all your family in order to recover my energy that has been transmitted in your family bloodline for a while, only by way of reclaiming 0.00001% of my power that in your family, I can feel complete again. I looked at him coldly and pulled out several knives from my inventory. What? Do you think you can beat me? Mephisto said lightly, and after one moment his shape changed completely, his skin became white and he had 2 big demonic horns over his head while he was wearing a long black robe and floating his body several centimeters from the surface of the earth. You really are an idiot. Looking at the new Mephisto shape, I used both opponent's strength and medium awareness of the enemies to find out how strong he really is now. Real name, Mephisto. Type, Divine Spirit, Evil of Men. Source, Christianity. Region, Heaven. Alignment, Chaotic Evil. Hidden Attribute, Heaven. Parameter. Strength, A. Endurance, X. Agility, C. Mana, X. Luck, A+++. NP, X. Class Skills. Authority of Beasts, EX. Independent Manifestation, EX. Self-Modification, EX. Personal Skills. Item Construction, EX. Territory Construction, A+++. Clairvoyant, A+++. Magecraft, A. High-speed divine words, A. Magic resistance, A. The eye of the mind, false, A+++. Memory correction, A+++. Self-replenishment, A+++. Against Mother Nature, A+++. Niga Pride, EX. Global Language, EX. Battle Continuation, B. Illusionism, A+++. Divinity, EX. NP. Hell, A. Gluttony, EX. Lust, EX. Sloth, EX. Greed, EX. Envy, EX. Wrath, EX. I looked at his skills with shock. I was expecting that he would be mostly a demon or a fallen angel at best, but he is in fact a divine spirit with a very high divinity, and even that he is an evil of men, which means that he gets good skills like the authority of beasts that give him harm bonus when fighting against people of a human kind like me. Even at the EX level, people like Mephisto require at least a grand servant with the help of many divine spirits and other heroic spirits. What do Alea and Gaia do in times like these? They don't think just a mortal like me can defeat Mephisto, right? From what I remember, even Tiamat and Godia do not have that many skills and noble phantasms. Since an object like this has entered into Earth, I bet that every spiritual creature in the world, including the phantasm species, has felt it, perhaps even the 27 dead apostle. Hey, Mephisto, before you start killing me, can I ask you something? I spoke slowly, taking advantage of the fact that he seemed very arrogant after his transformation. Of course, anything for you, he smiled at me, but looking at him it seemed that he was making fun of me. Why didn't you perform your rituals before you were sealed inside the magic crest? I was planning on that, but I was defeated before I could start the rituals, and the magic system in which my original body was working was destroyed by a bullet. Now, the time for talk is over. He said he would quickly turn his hand towards and throw very fast white energy attacks towards me. I used my instinct, the eye of the mind, true, and rapid reflexes to distort my perception of time and increase my reactions in order to successfully avoid his attacks. I activated my mystic eyes of death perception and looked towards Mephisto just to be surprised that Mephisto no longer had death lines anymore. It seemed that Mephisto noticed that I had activated my mystic eyes, so he stopped sending mana attacks to me temporarily and spoke, surprised, isn't it? Likewise, I no longer follow the natural order of life and death, so your eyes no longer influence me. I started dodging his attacks again. So long as I came close to it, I could use the law of nature to give him the concept of death. I decided to use my true abilities and stop playing. I deactivated my magic circles and started using high-speed divine words that enable me to use magecraft without paying attention to the fundamentals and basics and without speaking, and also, with a wave of magical energy passing over my body, doom armor appeared on me. Only with these procedures did my capabilities increase a lot. I can summon the dragon from Dragon Fleece, but it's very weak and almost useless. Instead, I extracted a copy of Gi-Bid from my inventory. Given that Mephisto has no skill denies noble phantasms, I can get untreated wounds if I can use the law of nature on him. With my enhanced abilities, I responded to the mana attacks through my shield, and due to my current magic resistance A, I wasn't receiving much damage, and while I avoided some attacks, his shots were fast enough to hit me several times, but I was protected before shield. When there were a few meters separating us, I could use the law of nature, otherwise I could touch it, but he made a Jian-type sword in his hand. I was about to ignore him, but his sword began to glow white and I felt in danger, so I took out Rangaminiad and fended off I am a sword. The impact force was enough to send shock waves in the surrounding areas, and it seems I interrupted his attack. I started a gun collision with him with me using Rangaminiad as a sword. With every collision, shock waves are sent around, and although we did not use our full physical strength, my calculations say that with my use of doom armor I can compare his full strength with me. After a few seconds, he went back and started his sword shining faster than before. This time I couldn't stop him, so I tried to avoid his attack. Envy, a blade that cuts the world. Mephisto quickly said in less than a second before waving his sword. His sword attack was like a compressed air blade that was sent towards me. It was very fast, and the only reason I could avoid it was by predicting the path of the attack and responding to it before it started. I looked behind me and noticed that the compressed blade had crossed the entire island in less than a second with a cut anything standing in its way, including corpses, buildings, and the ground, even continued to go in the water. Did he just use Noble Phantasm? This was not a compressed air blade, it was an attack that went through the layers of reality, which gave him absolute cutting force and very high speed. If my reaction was delayed for a split second, this attack would cut off both my shield and me. Mephisto quickly flew away from me to the sky before saying, "Sloth, the tree rebuilding the world." Near me a tree started with its roots and branches growing from the ground. I started avoiding the roots of the tree that started to grow from the ground beneath me, and I started avoiding the mana attacks that Mephisto was sending towards me. Of course I was sending gander shots towards him, but it was not causing any grip due to the endurance and magic resistance statistic. After about 15 minutes of dodging his attacks and not leaving any of the tree's roots wrapping around me, the tree finally grew completely, was gray in color with blue veins in all parts of the tree with a length of more than 60 meters and a width of 20 meters. Mephisto was sending envy attacks. It took me every few minutes, but I could have predicted its course and evaded. It was difficult to avoid the attacks that were sent consecutively, but I survived. While I was wondering what the tree was, I decided to take advantage of the new geographical feature and I inserted both Gibid and Rangaminiad into my inventory and boosted my speed limit before I started running on the tree in order to build momentum and challenge gravity, of course, in order to reach Mephisto. Accelerating X4, I used my time component to accelerate my speed 4 times. This method was sufficient to destroy all of my muscles and internal organs, and while Avalon heals me almost instantly, the pain was enough to drive me crazy. When I reached the same height as Mephisto, I jumped over it, and I made a mana slide from under my feet to push me into the air more. Rain of Light, Makia Hikasha Griya. Violet circles appeared behind me and I launched several mana attacks with each shot containing a power of 3.000 OD. He made a magic barrier in front of him, but I ran out of opportunity and stopped time in a 50-meter radius. Normally, I can pause the time for a few seconds, but since an object like Mephisto is in my field I may be able to pause it for just 1 second, but that is enough for me. I created a magical explosion under my feet, pushing myself over the armor of Mephisto, and punching it with my fullest force, the law of nature. At this point, time began to move again, and Mephisto was sent back to Earth while I cruelly fell on my feet. Clever. Really clever. As he returned to float several meters above the ground, Mephisto said, "At that time I felt as if I had missed something. It was a manipulation of time, boy, you exceeded my expectations, but even as you forced the concept of death to me." I interrupted his words by taking a copy of Gibid and throwing it at him, but he avoided it. He looked at me, Lust, the mother of all creatures. The ground beneath it began to turn into black clay, which began to expand in all other places. I stood on one of the tree roots in order not to be touched by the clay that covered the half of the island in a few seconds. I was wondering what the noble phantasm was, but it seemed I had no question because of the black clay. Familiar monsters began to form, black dragons with glowing red eyes, many copies of Wrath. Curse. I said while I removed a dagger from my inventory. I also activated my mystic eyes of death perception and killed the first dragon that attacked me. Because dragons are phantasm species, I get a big boost in strength against them because of Monster Hunter 2 and Dragon Slayer C. I started using both my strength and my extreme speed to kill any dragon in sight, storing their bodies in my inventory by touching them in passing. Dragons are very useful and valuable creatures. After a while, I realized that I had to finish spawning the dragons, or it wouldn't be my defeat. Because of Avalon, Magecraft, and Doom armor I could have fought until now, but I had to end it. I jumped over the dragons by using the dragons' bodies as a jump floor, and pushed myself further than that through Magecraft until I reached the level of the clouds and I took out the holy spear from my inventory. Rangaminiad, the lance that shines to the ends of the world. By activating my noble phantasm, my spear began to shine more brightly and pushed me towards the bottom, towards Mephisto, and due to our speed and magical energy I became like a meteor accelerating downward. Asterisk boom asterisk asterisk boom asterisk. When I collided with the earth, there was an explosion enough to destroy a large castle, and I could take Mephisto with me from the sky towards the ground and hit him directly, while possessing the concept of death. Maybe he was seriously injured, and all the dragons were killed. The womb of lust was destroyed, and although the tree was badly damaged it still stood. Stealing Rangaminiad was really a good choice, so it is not considered stealing because Rangaminiad does not belong to anyone, and in the future I will become Rangaminiad, so it really does matter. You, asterisk coughing asterisk brat. Mephisto said that he was floating a few meters away from me, and although his lower half did not exist, his upper half was completely unscathed. Looking at him now only makes me stress my hand on the holy spear. Mephisto was not weak and perhaps at least as strong as Tiamat or Godia. This only confirms my strength and Rangaminiad's strength, and this without using the Knight of Honor in order to enhance his strength. It is difficult to imagine that the strength of the spear would be strengthened after I became Rangaminiad. Gluttony, a belly that is never full. Mephisto said angrily. Behind me, tens of meters behind me, a black hole appeared and began to attract everything towards it, including the land, tree trunks, and distant seawater. I began running to escape from being absorbed, perhaps because of his noble phantasm. Mephisto was not withdrawn and he started taking advantage. This is in rebuilding his lower body. I could resist the force of pulling the black hole to a certain level, but it was slowly being pulled to it. After about 10 seconds the black hole stopped absorbing things and exploded forcefully. This was close, and while I wanted to stop to grab my breath I had to prevent Mephisto from completing the repair himself. Acceleration X4, I used my time magecraft to double my speed and I ran toward Mephisto while I entered Rangaminiad in my inventory and I took out a random blade. I tried to cut the death lines attached to his head, but he kept blocking the praying with his hand, which enabled me to cut the death lines connected to his arm. I noticed the pain in his face, but he made the sword of envy in his other hand and tried to cut him off, but I retreated several meters in order to avoid him. He again waved the sword next to him, but a pressed blade attack was not made. Instead a black slit was opened in space that Mephisto had entered before being closed. I breathed deeply as I ignored the unbearable pain coming from all of my bones, muscles, and internal organs. Did he run away? Does this mean that my problem is no longer and will be taken care of by Alea and Gaia? I sat on the ground and looked at the surrounding places. This rug was beautiful in the past, but only from my battle with Mephisto. Both the town and the forest were destroyed completely, and the earth looked like a nuclear bomb was thrown here with the burning earth, while there is black clay still boiling. I just realized now that I am tired, not physically, instead mentally. At every moment when I fight Mephisto I felt like I was going to die at any moment, and this is absolutely true. I have to completely destroy the tree and collect any remains of the dragons before fleeing, while I still keeping the illusion on my face, but I cannot risk that someone with mystic eyes can see through illusions may come. I felt in danger so I stood up and tightened my hand around the Rangaminiad handle immediately. When I looked up to the sky I saw Mephisto who seemed to be completely healed. Over and over again, you kept surprising me, and because of my own arrogance you was about to end my presence. He closed his eyes before saying, no more. Niga pride. I sent several intense mana shots toward him, but before it collided with him his entire body was surrounded by a purple cocoon that completely covered him and isolated him from the outside world. I wondered what his skill was. Every servant of the beast type possesses a skill called a Niga, like that Godia possesses immunity from magecraft, or that Kama Mara can make the entire universe love her sexually, and from beast to another the effects of this skill vary with the difference in her name. Since Mephisto was surrounded in a cocoon, I would expect that in a transformation of some kind. This was not strange because most servants like Tiamat possessed multiple phases, with each transformation increasing their strength dramatically. Previously, Mephisto had an air advantage, and since he was much stronger than me he was about to kill me many times, and if his strength increased again and kept his ability to fly, I would be destroyed. There is a possibility that he will lose his flying ability, but I do not think my luck statistic is high enough to rely on that, and in fact, I prefer to rely on myself. I quickly created a small summon circle in the ground and took out the golden fleece from my inventory and put it in the circle and started repeating the summon's words while infusing a huge amount of magical energy into the wool. Unlike Media that did not possess the knowledge required to summon the guardian spirit, the Kalkus dragon, located inside the wool, spent a lot of time making a very simple summoning ritual for this. Even I do not have the knowledge required to summon a dragon. The ritual that I use is that I send my magic energy to annoy the dragon and force him out. Of course he can ignore the matter, but at that time the golden fleece will be destroyed because of the mana I use, and since the Kalkus dragon was a guardian spirit, a mixture of a human soul and a dragon spirit, must maintain the presence of the golden fleece or his soul will be absorbed in Akasha. Mephisto cocoon slowly began to peel off, but fortunately a 20-meter dragon was formed in front of me, with golden wool covering his back, and a gray-skinned chest. He had a small horn in the middle of his forehead as well, but his eyes showed an intelligence different from wrath. Who dares disturb me? He said with an angry and upset voice and focused his eyes on me. Time was raging on me. I looked at him with more annoyance. This dragon was just a guardian spirit that can be considered a low-level dragon. It did not even develop into a holy spirit. In front of Mephisto it is almost useless, and if it was not because of his wings behind his back I would not have thought of it even as an option spare. Listen, we don't have time to chat. If you don't help me now it is not only you who will die, but even me, and I do not want death now. The fate of the world depends on your wings. You're not from Kalkus, how did you get me out? He said while he looked at me. Look over there. Do you think this time is right for your dragon pride? I was pointing towards the Mephisto cocoon, which was full of cracks, until it started to slowly fall apart. A creature like this should not be in this world, he said with surprise and wide eyes when he felt the enormous magical energy coming from Mephisto. I shrugged his expression and quickly jumped on his back without paying attention to his or her disagreement. Well, we must survive so we can argue later. Calchas's dragon was upset and angry, but it seemed to understand that we were not in a position to be in disagreement. He said before he started flying with me in the back, "You can call me Arjun." At this moment the cocoon exploded, revealing the new shape of Mephisto. Its size increased and its frame became similar to Hercules, while its lower half became transparent and seemed to be made of ether, still wearing a long black robe, but now it has taken a different shape showing its chest, and there is a blue glow in the middle of his chest. 2 horns became clearly larger and had sharp fangs, so that the features of his face changed slightly. He also have now wings without feather that glow with violet. I activated Mystic Eyes of Death Perception in order to find out if the effect of my law of nature is still effective. Fortunately it is still that despite the death lines only present in the chest. Then I used an opponent's strength to know the differences between his previous self and now. Real name, Mephisto. Type, God, evil of men. Source, Christianity. Region, heaven. Alignment, chaotic evil. Hidden attribute, heaven. Parameter. Strength, A. Endurance, X. Agility, A. Mana, X. Luck, X. NP, X. Class skills. Authority of beasts, EX. Independent manifestation, EX. Self-modification, EX. Personal skills. Item construction, EX. Territory construction, A+++. Clairvoyant, A+++. Magecraft, A. High-speed divine words, A. Magic resistance, A+. The Eye of the Mind, false, A+++. Memory correction, A+++. Self-replenishment, A+++. Against Mother Nature, A+++. Niga Pride, EX. Global Language, EX. Battle Continuation, EX. Conceptual Resistance, C. God's Immunity, A+. Illusionism, A+++. Divinity, EX. Monstrous Strength, EX. Angel Core, EX. NP. Hell, A. Gluttony, EX. Lust, EX. Sloth, EX. Greed, EX. Envy, EX. Wrath, EX. I looked at his condition while noting that, regardless of the reinforcement he got most of his skills, and regardless of the brutal power and essence of the angel, he did not get anything else, but I should not rely on this. His strength was greatly enhanced, and do not forget that he took the next step in the path of divinity. He somehow became a god, a creature that should not exist at this era. Argus released a golden dragon breath toward Mephisto, but the latter pointed his hand toward us and a magic wall appeared in front of him blocking the attack. Roar asterisk, Mephisto suddenly cried out sharply. His screaming seemed to be strong enough to freeze both Argus and me, even that the world seemed to be shaking. I controlled Argus by pulling his golden wool and forcing him to turn back. He easily obeyed me, but at this moment Mephisto formed a white spear and launched it toward us quickly. Through the eye of the mind and instinct I could predict the path of the spears, and by speeding up the thought I could compute the best way to avoid them, and by rapid reflexes I could drive Argus perfectly despite not having the skill to drive. I led Argus towards Mephisto while tightening my hand around the Rangaminiad handle. Mephisto created the Sword of Envy in his right hand and waved against my spear. Again, a shock wave was created that pushed my back slightly, but we continued to exchange blows by our weapon while we were flying in please. With each collision, I was the most affected person, even thanks to the strong reinforcement that Doom armor and runes provide him, and I was barely at the same level of strength as Mephisto. On some occasions, I used to create intense purple mana balls and sent them to Mephisto. Sometimes he was injured, and on occasion he sent his mana attacks towards me. After some time in this case, Mephisto moved away from me several tens of meters before looking at me, opened his mouth and a ball of pure mana gathered in front of him, and in less than a second the mana ball turned into a ray that I could not completely avoid. While I was able to save me and Argus, the beam crossed through my left arm and destroyed it before colliding with the sea several kilometers behind me, and the latest explosion equivalent to a nuclear bomb threw Argus and I forward. I ignored the pain from losing my left arm and used my right hand to make Argus regain balance, and I made him lead me toward Mephisto again. In the next seconds my arm was replenished by Avalon, although the high-speed regeneration process was very painful, but I assume this is better than staying disabled. I used Projection Magecraft to recreate the Doom armor and used my new hand to make a lightning shaft. Lightning Magecraft was not a common thing among Magus, not only that learning it is very difficult, but that it is easy to hurt yourself when using it, as it does not obey the user easily, so although it is present, most thaumaturgical schools do not recognize it as something really, the only good is his high offensive strength. I shot a lightning shaft toward Mephisto, but he simply ignored him because of his magical resistance. Argus, I want you to disperse it for 10 seconds. I said I am the dragon I fly over. No. I will die in 6 seconds. He said. Argus, 6 seconds, you are a dragon, use your pride. I told him before I jumped from his back towards the sky and used my fire runes to create an explosion below me. I used the Knight of Honor on Rangaminiad to increase his strength, Rangaminiad, the lance that shines to the ends of the world. Rangaminiad began using my magic power to build his own attack. I immediately directed my attack towards Mephisto and my spear, Rangaminiad, began to turn into a magical comet towards him. Argus chased me down and went back into the Golden Fleece, while Mephisto noticed me and tried to dodge. He was hit and pushed by me towards the ground as the reinforced Rangaminiad attack caused the entire island explosion. I lost consciousness for a few seconds before waking up with tinnitus in my ear. As soon as I did so I noticed that I was floating on the surface of the water, so I used the spell that Medea was using for floating in the air. I did not receive a notice to kill Mephisto, so it must be alive. I looked around and could not find it, not before I was caught by a huge hand from my chest. Mephisto appeared in front of me gradually, apart from his left hand that became large enough to cover my chest. He was in a miserable state, both his horns were destroyed, while his right half was completely destroyed, and his left wing was missing, while his right wing glow was visibly weaker. This is so humiliating. Mephisto said angrily as he pressed my armor with enough force to make him start to crack. I, the god of the new world, has been defeated again and again by a mortal man like you. I cannot believe this. Rain of light, Makia Hikasha Griya. I launched frequent hiccups without stopping. Mephisto could not avoid, while he pressured my armor to be destroyed, but he released me after a few seconds. I quickly pulled back, but I didn't stop shooting Rain of light, Makia Hikasha Griya. You will die, and you will not die quickly. I heard Mephisto sound behind the smoke wall, and the next moment my right arm was cut off by a compressed air blade, forcing me to stop releasing Rain of light. When the smoke cleared, Mephisto was there in no better condition, a little worse as he performed the Rain of light, but he possessed the Sword of Envy in his hand. As he slowly progressed towards me, Avalon began renewing my arm while I tried to throw Rain of light again, but he sent an air blade and cut my knees. Oh ha! I screamed painfully while Avalon started limiting my legs only. Now, I can barely keep myself floating in the air. I looked at him angrily and a little hate before I touched the necklace around my neck and activated its effect, Tropha, in order to move me away 10,000 meters. I disappeared from my previous place and appeared elsewhere, but I cannot stay here, and while Avalon is almost finished making my new organs, I continue to fly at my fullest speed towards the opposite direction of Mephisto. This was a great loss. Not only that I am tired mentally, I even experienced great physical pain and almost died if not thanks to Avalon. I also lost my armor. The only thing that hasn't been destroyed is the mystic code in the form of a mask on my face that can change my look. I stopped running and escaping to the side, only half a second and I was cut in two. Fortunately I have the instinct A. I just turned to see Mephisto dozens of meters away. I immediately used a Knight of Honor on Rangaminiad before using it on Mephisto, but I didn't shoot myself with him and fired the spear alone. On his way towards Mephisto, the Rangaminiad turned into something like a meteor heading towards it. Rangaminiad was on the verge of hitting Mephisto, but the latter escaped at the last minute, causing Rangaminiad to continue his path away. Don't you do that, proverb. Fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on. Mephisto spoke as he accelerated as he approached me, but I interrupted him suddenly. Alpha Tau Lambda Alpha. I pressed the atmosphere around Mephisto, causing it to freeze in place, but I did not stop there and prepared for another attack. Sigma Tau Lambda Eta Tau Omicron Upsilon Rho Alpha Nu Omicron. This was not one of the media spells, but by following the same principle of forbidden magic that she uses, I can make a column of magical energy strike the enemy from the sky. A dense column of purple magical energy hit Mephisto from the sky, which made him scream constantly, but he kept looking at me angrily all the time. Thanks to my enormous magical energy, I could continue this attack for at least 25 continuous seconds. Unfortunately, Avalon does not help in regeneration mana. I was able to do a lot of damage to Mephisto as his remaining wing was completely broken, and it seemed that his body had begun to melt, but on the other hand, my mana was almost running out. You, naughty. You will die in the most horrible way I can think of, Mephisto said as he stretched his hand towards my direction. His arm became bigger and longer, approached me in less than a second, grabbed me from my chest, and moved me toward Mephisto quickly. Now, it's my turn, he said as he pressed me and broke my arm bones and many of my ribs. Alpha Epsilon Rho Omicron. I pointed toward his face with my hand, which was not under my arm, and launched toward him a plague wind spell that hit him in the face. You filth, he said angrily while he threw me hard away. I collided several times with the water quickly, and it was painful, especially that Avalon did not finish treating my broken bones, but I used the floating spell at the moment when I could. Thank you, Mephisto, I said with a smile on my face. You have to remember, I already fooled you twice, the third one is easy. He looked at me with a blank expression for a second before just looking behind him to see that Rangaminiad is heading straight towards him. Yes, I can control it after activating it. He tried to escape from the attack path, but I used Alpha Tau Lambda Alpha to freeze him in place and was hit by Rangaminiad. The last thing I remember is the bright light of Rangaminiad. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.